Video is going to walk you through doing the data processing on a Google Sheet for the Practice Acceleration Lab. You should have access to this sheet through Toddle, but you can only view the sheet, so you should start by clicking on File and making a copy of this Google Sheet for yourself, or one person in the group can do that, and then you can click on Share and you can add specific names so that you can share the sheet with everyone in your group. It's really important that everyone in the group tries to work through this processing individually. Even if you're sitting next to each other, you can help each other, but each person needs to be able to do this for the eventual investigation that we do that will be assessed. Okay, looking at this, there's actually, I realized, a little bit of an issue. So I'm going to do something first, which is I'm going to add a couple of rows. Insert 2 rows, that ought to be fine. I just want the number of rows in each one of these things to be the same. And this is going to mess up my color. I'll try to fix that. So sorry, I should have done this in advance. But basically, I want everyone to have a colored row and then 1, 2, 3, 4 rows beneath that. And that's really just because of this last one. I want all of these rows to be the same number of rows for the sake of my equations, so that when I make an equation in the spreadsheet and I drag it, it will do the equation correctly across all the different groups. So we've got group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These were the 5 groups of data collected. We recorded the mass values of the cars and of the extra masses that we added, but each group added a different number of masses. You can see that not all those masses were the same, which is why we recorded their mass, so we know the exact total mass of our car, not just guessing at it from looking at the number of masses. So in this box over here, I want to do an equation. We call boxes on spreadsheets cells. So I might call it a cell, I might call it a box. I'm going to hit an equals sign to tell the spreadsheet I want to do some calculating. And then I want it to calculate a sum for me. And I want it to calculate the sum of all the masses for each group. So for simplicity, I'm just going to highlight all 10 of these boxes. Now obviously for group 1, there's only one mass. That's fine. When I click enter, the spreadsheet's going to know that there's only one number there, and so it adds those things up. I'm then going to just take my bottom right corner where that little circle is, and I'm going to drag this down, if it'll let me, yep. And I'm going to drag it down for all my groups. Now, there's a lot of unnecessary numbers here because of how I spaced out the different groups in this table. So apologies if that's a little bit confusing. But basically, these 4 here don't mean anything. We don't need those values. And these ones don't mean anything. I just want the values that ended up in those boxes, and I can clean all this up later. It's a bit unusual the way I organize the data here, dragging down for different numbers of masses. So apologies for that, but now we've got all of our mass values calculated, added up in the boxes over here. And, you can also see that some of them go to more decimal places than others. That's definitely something to watch out for in your data collection. Our balances all record to 2 decimal places, so it makes sense to always record those. But since some people didn't, I'm going to round off all my values to having no decimal places for the sake of consistency. And I don't want to over-report precision that I don't know about. So I'm going to have all these now with no decimal places. So these are the masses of the cars for the group 1 with just the car, and then starting with group 2 and onward with added masses on the car. Okay, I now want the spreadsheet to calculate an average for me. So we saw when I wanted it to add things up, I could use the sum function. So I started to write the word sum, and then I highlighted the boxes that I wanted it to add up. For acceleration, I'm just going to click an equal sign, and then I'm going to start to type the word average. And when I do that, I'll get some different options, but I want to make sure I just pick the one that says average. It may be your first box. For me, it's the second one down. I picked that, and now I can see it says equals average up at the top, and it's waiting for me to tell it which boxes do I want it to average. So I want it to average these 5 trials. These were the 5 trials for group 1. I'm going to click enter, and now it's averaged those. Now I'm going to drag that, and it's going to do the exact same thing for the other groups. And again, these don't work because there aren't values there. So let's just delete those. Cool. And now I've got an average acceleration. Again, I want them to, let's have them all be to the same number of decimal places. So I think now it's 2. I'm going to go back out to 3 decimal places. Since all of my trials have 3 decimal places, I'll have my average have 3 decimal places. So these are the average acceleration values for the different groups with the different masses. And then finally, I care about the half range uncertainty. I want to know how much variation was there in between the repeated trials when the groups did 5 trials in a row. So half range is the maximum value minus the minimum value divided by 2. So it's the range of your values divided by 2. We can actually have the spreadsheet do that for us. If we do equals, and then first I'm going to put in parentheses, I'm going to start to write max. And max is a function where it can find the highest value within a bunch of numbers. So I'm going to highlight these 5, and then I'm going to close that off. And then I'm going to do space minus, and then I'm going to start to write min. Min is the minimum value. I'm going to highlight the exact same 5 boxes. It's going to find the lowest value in those boxes. Now I'm going to add another parentheses. So I now, if you look at the equation, I have highest max value in the 5 boxes minus the lowest value in the 5 boxes. And now I'm going to divide that value by 2. And so this is going to give me the half range value. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it down, and I'll get the half range for all the others. I'm going to erase all those zeros. Okay, now for me, I really think a half range should only have 1 decimal place. So I would get rid of that, and we could leave it at that for now. Probably better to give it all the way to there, but for now in our MYP in grade 10, if we just make these 2 things match, then we're okay. So this one has too many decimal places, and this one has too many decimal places. So I'm rounding them so that they both have 3 decimal places. So the half range uncertainties are going to show up on my graph as error bars. It's a way of showing how much variation there was between trials. So it's looking at the precision and how reliably we know these average values. Okay, so that's how you use a spreadsheet to do calculations for you. We did a sum calculation here, we did an average calculation here, and then we created a more complicated calculation for half range. But once you've done it once, you can just drag it and copy it down here, and you'll have it do the same exact calculation over and over again. Now, we want to move this data over to Excel for actually graphing the data. So I need to open up an Excel sheet. Let me copy this down. And now I'm in Excel. Okay, one thing about copying this data over is there's a high probability it will get messed up because we're trying to copy data that is in equation form. So let's try it. If I hit Command V and copy it in, oh, that's nice. It actually worked. So you can copy it over. Sometimes if you try to copy data in a spreadsheet that was calculated, you need to do pasting. You can insert it, you can paste it in. Sorry, I need the commands up above, where you paste something, but you need to paste it special. And when you paste something special, you want to paste something only with the values. But it looks like if we copy those values from the Google Sheet, it doesn't try to copy over the equations, so we're okay. And we're not going to get weird error values in our spreadsheet. One thing that you might notice when you try to copy those values over, especially for these values, is they might not work, or they might show up at the left-hand side of your cell. The issue you're having there is that your laptop has European settings, and therefore it's not interpreting these decimal points as decimal places. And in order to fix it, you either have to change the regional settings of your laptop. You can do that in settings, or you have to change these to commas. So you'll see if I try to write something with a comma in my spreadsheet, it's going to stay over here at the left-hand side. If this is at the left-hand side, then Excel doesn't know that this is a number. If I write the same thing with a decimal point, you can see it's going to show up at the right-hand side. So right-hand side is good. That means it's a number. If you see it at the left-hand side, that's bad. And so you need to fix it until you get all of these values to the right-hand side of your cell. That's really the important thing you need to start on. Okay. I'm also going to make sure that they all have 3 decimal places, although it doesn't really matter much right now for the sake of my graphing. Okay. So I've got all my values here, and I want to start graphing things. I'm going to get rid of all these spaces now in between the groups. So let's delete. If I go to Control Click, I'm going to delete entire rows just until I get group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all right next to each other. Okay, I'll move my good, bad note off to the side. Okay, so assuming you have now adjusted your values and everything is showing up at the right-hand side, we want to make a graph, and we want to make a scatter graph that has the mass of the car. This is our independent variable, the thing that we changed, and we were seeing its effect on the dependent variable. The half range is our uncertainty, and that will show up as error bars. So when I want to make this graph on Excel, whatever I want is my x-axis should be on the left, and whatever I want on the y-axis should be on the right. So I'm just typing those in as reminders. So I'm going to now just highlight the numbers for my total mass and my average acceleration, and I'm going to insert, so I'm clicking on that tab that says Insert, and I'm going to pick the scatter graph. And pretty much always we're picking the graph with just the dots. We don't want to connect the dots, we're just adding the dots. Okay, now we've got definitely some up and down values. You can also see this is maybe a little misleading though, because Excel has not shown the Y values all the way to 0. It's zoomed in on R values. So it really makes it look like they're all over the place, when actually they're not that far apart from each other in terms of how big they are. If I want to add titles quickly to my axes, I'm going to usually use this quick layout tab over here on Excel. I have to be on the chart design button. Then I can click on the quick layout, and then I can pick from any one of these. Most of them are pretty similar. I'm going to pick this one. That one gave me spaces where I can type in the titles of my axes. So at the bottom here, I know I'm looking at the mass of the car, and that is in grams. And on the y-axis, I'm looking at acceleration, and that's in meters over second to the second power. A little bit tricky to write this in Excel, but that will work for us. So acceleration, meter per second squared. And the graph, what's the graph showing me? It's showing me the effect of mass on acceleration of a Pascar down a ramp. So just, your title should be very informative, and now we would know exactly what we're looking at. Now that I've got all those in, it's good to add those titles and things in first, because if we start to add trend lines and error bars and then we do one of those quick layouts, it can sometimes erase all of the work that we've done. Now I'm going to click on the data values, the scatter points, that I want to add a trend line to. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to add a trend line. I could also go up here to add chart elements, and I could add a trend line here. And I want to add a linear trend line. I want to see how it fits the data. So we can see that trend line is kind of in between all the points. It's kind of gently sloping down. If I double click on it, it lets me format the trend line. And I always want to display the equation on the chart. And right below this, it might be just off the screen of the video, you want to also check the box that says display R squared value on the chart. And so I'm going to put this over here. So I'm going to grab that box and move it. So the equation of the trend line is given. The equation is giving me the relationship between the independent and the dependent variable through the slope value, which I can see there is -1 times 10 to the -5. So that's 0.00001. So that's a pretty small value. R squared is giving me an idea of how well does this trend line fit my data points. If the R squared value is 1, that means the trend line goes through all the data points. If it's close to 1, like 0.9 something, that means it's very close to going through all the data points. If it's lower than that, that means it's not a very good fit for the data. It doesn't actually go through the data points very well. Okay, we've added a trend line. And the last thing that we want to add are half range values as error bars. So I'm going to click on the data values again. I'm going to add a chart element. I'm going to add error bars. Now, sometimes when you do this, some people find that they don't get this option at the bottom for more error bars. If that's the case, you can click on any of these and then you can adjust from there once you're in the box. So I'll show you what I mean. If I add standard deviation, so I'm going to click on this. Okay, so I get all these crazy error bars on my graph. First of all, I don't want the ones going left to right. So I click on any of the horizontal ones and then I just click delete and they disappear. Okay, then I want these ones, but I need to fix them. So I'm going to double click on them. When I double click on them, I should get this format error bar showing up. Pull my graph over here. Okay, let me go back, I lost them. I want to format the error bars. Anytime I lose them, I'm going to click on them again. I don't want to use standard deviation. I want to use custom. I'm going to click on custom. And now I'm going to tell Excel what I want it to use for the error bar values. And every time I move around, I'm losing it. So I just keep going back, click on those error bars again, and I'm going to customize them. I want to tell it to use these values as my error bar values. So I'm going to specify the value. You can see it's asking me for both the positive and the negative error value. That means the top part of the error bar and also the bottom part of the error bar. So to do this, I'm going to click on the little white box, highlight the 5 half range values and click enter. And then I repeat the process for the negative, highlight the 5 values and click enter. And then I'm going to click OK. And that has shrunk those error bars down. And you also see now it has automatically made that the range on the y-axis is a lot more accurate. It's showing us the full range of acceleration values. And so now you get a little bit better sense of the full trend that we're seeing. So this is the mass of the car. This is the acceleration of the car. And we're seeing our trend line. We have an equation for the trend line, an R squared value for the trend line. And now we have error bars that actually are all different in size, and they represent how much variation was happening between trials in our practice investigation. So you should be able to work through the data processing on the Google Sheet, bring it over to an Excel sheet, and create a fully labeled, complete graph like this with trend line and error bars if you're doing a Criterion C lab report.